converted man here. Okay. Potholer54's. Awesome YouTuber who does content and stuff. We're not watching his video, though. So, I mean, you can watch his video. You should watch his video. But we're not talking about the video. We're talking about the comments section. Oh, yeah, the comments section is comedy gold, man. It's a great exploration into personal bias, personal experience, and other logical fallacies. It's just great. Here's a good example right here. Refer Tech 101, who, by the way, if you open up his channel, his username is Fookewe, Fookewe. Amazing. Anyways, he says, well, I know I'm poor, and I know plenty of unofficial educated people. So yes, poverty, educational status thus far been ruled out. So culture, or another aspect, is a strong driver. Let's have a look at the African content. I'll leave it there. Go ahead and call me racist. I'll stick with the statistics and personal observations. And if it's culture, well now, screwed up. I tried to, oh my God. There we go. And if it's culture, well, ... Why does it cut off? That's so weird. Why does it cut off? Yeah, it's... I don't know. It just did. All right, it did that. Isn't that annoying when that happens? Okay, so the point I'm wanting to make here is weird noises going on. There we go. I got it. I got it to work. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. And if it's culture, well, now, if enough work on it, they can prove me the badly by fixing it. I'd love nothing more than to be shown wrong on this because we all win. Okay, so personal bias based on subjective experience within a small parameter of your own personal experiences with a limited set data that you didn't bother to keep track of officially and are trying to just remember from the top of your head. Great. Yeah, perfect. Wonderful data. Yeah, I mean, So I said, I said my little part, which is it's just, sounds more like bad logic and bad research on your part. In fact, really, honestly, no research on his part, because he didn't do research. He just said, I know this because I know uneducated people. I have observed this. Let's have a look at the African continent, whatever, and then didn't expand upon that point. Just, hey, look at that. Like, look at the trees. Hey, just look over there. See that? There you go. I don't need to say anything more. I don't need to explain my argument. You know what I'm talking about. So, and then, by the way, I'm going to burden shift and have it be that everybody else has to prove me wrong, and then we all win. Isn't that great? But if I sound racist, I am. Whatever. I don't care. How about just give a coherent argument with citations, evidence, data? No, this is personal observations and personal experience, which adds up to diddly squat. The small set of data that you have gathered from what you've observed, which is might be a lot of people, might be a small amount of people, don't know. You didn't keep track. You didn't write down when and where this happened and what you saw. You didn't keep track like that because people don't do that sort of thing. And so now, on top of the observation you might have made, you're now relying on your own personal memory of it, which can be skewed. And you're saying this with such authority such certainty. Look, I know that this is the way it is. I know that it's not just poverty and educational status because that's what I've observed. I know that. And then if you want to prove me wrong, even though I haven't proven myself right, go ahead. And I said, and this other person says, source? I know plenty. It's not statistics. And this person just checks, just said, good luck with that. And then he says, look up FBI crime stats and then learn some of the tricks they do with it by folding Hispanics in the white category. That is but one, but I won't hold my breath or care at this point. I got my solution. Seems to constantly work as well on that. What the hell is he talking about at this point? Okay, does the FBI fold in the Hispanics with white or what? What is he talking about? What solution is he talking about? Nobody knows. And then this guy says, nothing like a closed mind. And he says, nothing like those who refuse to see things for how they are, because he's so right. Of course I'm right. Because, I mean, look, I looked at it. I saw it with my own eyeballs. How could I possibly be wrong? Sure, all my logic is completely screwed up, and I have no data. I have half-hearted arguments that aren't really formed. Like, look at this data vaguely. See what they're doing vaguely. Anyways. And then Leaf's dude says, absolutely without a doubt how things are, right? And then the referee says, only things I've consistently observed in my locality. Ah, yes. You know that you're right when it comes to what you've observed, right? But being I've been to a lot of places have rather large data set. No, you don't. But once you're one of those that needs to learn firsthand, I am Betty. I'll leave life to teach you. Right. You don't have any arguments. You don't have any data. You don't have a large data set because you don't even have a data set. You're relying purely on personal observations that you've had over time that you didn't record. You didn't make into data by recording the moment that it happened, like what you saw, where you saw it, and what was going on, and what was that? How, I mean, I don't know what you're seeing that can be even counted as data, So this is the problem of personal confirmation bias. You think that you're right because you've experienced it. You've seen it. I've seen lots of fill in the blank, in this case, black people that are doing bad stuff. Okay, but that, and it's like, it's not that they're poor. Well, but it is that they're poor because there's I mean, you can't just say that it's not X, Y, and Z because there's many factors that go into why people behave in certain ways. But you're just deciding that you have enough to conclude your conclusion without any actual evidence. This guy says, I don't hear no. And then I said, bad arguments must be discarded as such. Try harder. And that was the end of that. That's just one example of I experienced it, and so therefore I know what's going on. Here's another one. Morgan Reed. I used to be more scientific minded until I was convinced by vegans that veganism is supported by scientific consensus. But once I was disillusioned by my direct experience, it eroded my trust in nutrition science. As much as I fiercely disagree with my dad on all these subjects, I'm too empathetic towards his general skepticism because I assume his experience tells him so. And at some point, you trust your own experience more than any authority. I wish I knew how to think again. But the more I learn, the angrier I get, which makes it difficult to think again. Wow. What a sad, sad state. that person is in. It's hard to learn because then I get angry. Oh, my heart just goes out to them. It's so hard to learn because then I get mad. Oh, the horror. That's my comment. That's what I'm leaving as a comment. Yeah. So you were scientifically minded, but then you were convinced to be a vegan, and then you found out that the vegans were wrong, and that you didn't find out that they were wrong due to science, but by your direct experience, and then that made you disillusioned in not just veganism, but all of scientific everything. And now also plus something about you're empathetic, and so experience is greater than authority, and it's just hard to think. It makes you angry. So it's just easier to not think because it makes you angry. Don't learn. It just upsets you. Wow. Personal experience for the lose here. Is there more? Oh yeah. Here we go. Everyone's girl who watched everyone says we when what we should be saying is conservatives / Republicans. The rest of us have no problems figuring out the difference between opinion and fact. It's the nuts who refuse to believe anything from reputable sources and just believe everything they read online. What a wonderful, broad, sweeping statement with absolutely nothing to back it whatsoever, and without any data or any argument or anything. It's just, I am in the group that's correct. My group is right, and the other group, they're always wrong, always. It's always the conservatives and Republicans. It's not nobody on the Democrat side or left side. They never make mistakes. They're never wrong about anything. We can figure out the difference between fact and opinion, but they obviously can't. Obviously, they just believe everything they read online, right? I mean, yeah, it's just obviously. What are the replies to this? The most damning evidence that this isn't true is that you think it's a fact and not an opinion, right? They think Girl Who Watched thinks that what they said is a fact, not an opinion. And the whole video that this comments under is about knowing the difference between fact and opinion, and can we even tell the difference anymore? No, this person can't tell the difference anymore. They cannot tell that this is an opinion that they hold and not a fact about reality. Because conservatives and Republicans, some of them, I don't know how many, can figure out the difference between an opinion and fact. But some of them might not be able to figure out that difference. And the other political parties that are out there, but we're going to only pretend there's two because that's easier. And again, it makes us angry when we think. They all are wrong because they're not on my side. Substantial numbers of people who aren't conservatives have this issue too. Frankly, we can pretend like we all like the stupid people are on their side, but that's not true. Exactly. It's so much easier to have an us versus them mentality than to have nuance. But the stupid people, here we go, on the other side don't matter, since they're not being used by fascists to leverage in politics to gain power. What? I love it. What? Huh? What? What is this non-argument? But they are, because fascists elevate them as an example of us being unbelievable to defend our arguments, or even have an argument in some cases. Like, what is this? Just, what is this? Like, really, what the bleep? I mean, it's so great. Oh God, here we go. More. Potholer is wrong when he claims that the how many gender debate can be settled by agreeing on definitions first. Oh yeah. I mean, you're wrong. I mean, deciding what definitions are, forget about it. I mean, yeah, sure, that could help us understand things, but that's not how to resolve the problem. I'm sure this guy has a perfectly good way to, resolve the debate. Okay, let's find out. The actual debate is whether trans people deserve dignity and respect. It is? Okay. I mean, there are only two genders is actually just a gotcha quip that is used as a justification for denying these people's respect. Really? It is? How do we know that? If they were just honest, they would say, I think these people are weird and therefore I don't want to respect their identity. That's why no facts or gender change their mind. Oh, okay. Well, you've solved it then, right? Wait. I don't think he said anything about it being subtle, but he's saying that you can't even begin a conversation without first accepting the reality of the definition of your terms. Obviously, if people are unwilling to argue in good faith, there's nothing you can do. There you go. Exactly. The actual debate, and then let's see if this guy absolute nonsensical oversimplification is done to win an argument. For example, if everyone was on board with what you're saying, there wouldn't be people freaking out when they had their F on the license change to N. According to you guys, whoever that is, this is A, science-based, and B, the correct answer, F isn't a gender. Also, they are weird, but that's not always a pejorative. I'm weird. I'm perfectly fine with that. So, okay, I could go on. I think that's good enough as my examples that I wanted to pontificate about. It's so weird how on a video about opinion versus fact that people are repeatedly relying on their own personal observations, their own personal experience, their own lived life, whatever, to say things with such certainty as if those things are indeed fact, when they haven't done the research, when they haven't looked at anything, when they, that they haven't. I mean, you have to know. Well, maybe you don't know, but I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, right, They're not being skeptical. They're not thinking critically. They're not using reason. They're not using logic. And some of them recognize this. That one person recognized it's hard to learn. It makes them mad. That's a bad thing. You should fight against that. Like, be happy to learn. My goodness, I want to learn new stuff. It's sad that there are people out there that actively don't want to learn, actively refuse to learn, don't want to engage with new ideas or even old ideas that they've never heard of because, it's boring. It's dull. I'm not into that. I'm not interested in that. Yeah, I get the point already. Whatever. Let's get to, just skip, I'm used to doom scrolling, But to be able to truly understand the facets of humanity and yourself, it's going to require effort and energy and a lot of reading and content information gathering from other sources that aren't you, and work to try to disprove your idea rather than to prove it. Work to see if your idea is coherent at all. And don't just rely on your own personal biases and observations because you didn't collect the data when you were there. You didn't sit down to write down incident 1. I saw X, Y, and Z happening at this time, at this place. Here's what happened that I saw. You didn't do that. That's not how humans operate. And we could, if you wanted to, you could take a pen and paper everywhere you went. And if you see something, you start to write down what you saw and go, okay, well, I've got some data now, go to a bowling alley. It's just like, here's the people that I see bowling. How many men do you see? How many women do you see? Just have a little tally, how many people are dressed in whatever color, and you have actual data. Now, people might be wondering why you're walking around looking at them and writing stuff down, but nonetheless, you could be gathering actual data. And what you make of that data is another thing on top of that, because you have to actually know what to do with that data. And go, okay, well, look, I've compiled, I went to a bowling alley today, and this is what I've got. Okay, that's very limited data, but it is data. It tells you something. It tells you on that day, here's what people were there. It's probably going to be more men than women. And yeah, I don't know how many are going to be in bowling outfit gear rather than just civilian clothes. Depends on what kind of bowling alley you go to, and what time of day it is, and what day of the week it is, and what season you're in. These are all going to be contributing factors that's going to affect your data. And you need to know that in order to make sense of the data you've collected. But one visit isn't enough to get any significant data. You're going to need to go like every day. You're going to need to be there like all day gathering this data. Data collection is extraordinarily difficult in reality. And this is why research teams exist, because you need more than one person to do this, because eventually you're going to get tired, you're going to wear out, and you're going to want to be done with this. You're going to get bored, and you're going to want to do something else. You're going to need to eat and drink and go to the bathroom. So you need somebody else to take over. And what's your motivation? You're probably going to want to get paid for this. So this is what people that are researchers do. And so you yourself, if you're not in that research field, you're just a dude or a dudette. You're just a person who is going through life and seeing things, and you're recording that in your brain to some extent. But how well you hold on to those records is extraordinarily finicky. And we know this. We know that's true because, well, one example would be Mandela effect, the so-called Mandela effect, where people misremember something trivial. And wow, isn't it so strange that other people also misremember it in similar ways? Almost like we're pattern-seeking creatures. And then the explanation for why this happens is, well, no, it can't possibly be your memory is wrong. No, you've gone to an alternate universe, because that's way more reasonable than thinking that you're wrong about stuff and that other people are wrong about stuff. No, not, but people can't all be wrong in the same way. That's impossible. Different universe, that must be, no, everybody can be wrong in similar ways. That is the answer, whether you like it or not. Somebody was convinced that they were hearing voices in recordings, and they sent me something, and I listened to it, and I didn't hear anything. But that's just me. I'm just one person. We're gonna need to send this out and get it analyzed by more people. If we're looking for a voice, though, and you're claiming that there's a voice, it's really not up to me to look at it or whatever. It's up to you to do that research, to actually go to the people, to send it off to the lab, to send it off, whatever, to have it analyzed, etc. And that's going to cost money. And because you have to pay for somebody to take their time and energy to properly analyze it and say, yes, there is a voice on here, or no, there's just background noises. There's no voice. We must not rely on our own intuition about complicated issues. Now, the video Potholer has here is about a couple of things. It's about opinion versus fact, and it's also about his last video, which was like on the transgender stuff. And I don't understand that realm. Anytime I've talked about it, I've got my foot in my mouth, because I don't understand what I'm supposed to say or not say about it. So I leave it alone. It's like, that's not my topic. That's somebody else's topic, not mine. I think that people deserve the right to be treated the same as everyone else. Um, and what they can or can't do in public regarding bathrooms or sporting events or whatever, that's beyond me to sort out. That's way beyond me to figure that out. We as a society will eventually figure that out. And maybe the answer is just the restrooms are by what your genitalia is. But who's going to check? Well, no one. But still, it's self-regulated. And maybe the jails will work similarly. What genitalia do you have down there? That's what jail you go into. Settling the problem, not all the problems, but some of the problems. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be those that don't fit nicely into the categories we've constructed. But all that aside, because what I find interesting is that the comments on a video, we can't tell the difference between opinion and fact, demonstrate, many of the ones I looked at, not all of them, obviously, demonstrate that we can't tell the difference between an opinion and fact. It's like, yes, see, we can't do it. Some people can't. Some people can. So how do we do it? How do we determine what is fact versus what's opinion? It's very difficult. It's going to require understanding critical analysis, understanding informal logic, perhaps formal logic as well. It's going to require understanding of some science, maybe not all the science, but enough to understand how the world works in general. It's going to require you to spend energy on the thing that you want to know about. And if you want to be lazy, there's tools that let you be lazy. ChatGPT now, you can use that to be a little bit lazy, but you're going to need to recheck that to make sure it's not wrong, because it will regurgitate what it thinks you want to hear. So it's not a good source of truth. It's just a good way to kind of be lazy. But being lazy is the whole thing that is kind of the problem, because then you're not really getting to what's true. You're getting to an answer that may or may not be true, and you were just too lazy to find out for yourself if it was true. So don't rely on your personal experience for everything, or maybe anything. I don't know. It's hard to say. Like, some personal experience, you have to rely on it at some level to do some stuff. But when you're dealing with complicated subjects, then relying on your personal experience might not be something you want to do. So when do you rely on it and when do you not rely on it? Again, this is not an easy question to answer. It is a difficult question to consider, and it's something that you need to figure out. So those are all the things. Okay, so once again, I have pseudo history in my chat, and they are in their own universe. I would welcome pseudo history to the universe that I'm in and engage with the content that I'm talking about now. And if you want to talk about that other stuff, you can email me, deconvertedman1@gmail.com, and we can set up a live conversation to talk about whatever the bleep you want. But I'm not addressing any of the stuff that you said in chat, because none of it has to do with anything I said here that I can tell. Okay. Anyways, if you want to leave a comment about things I talked about in this video, please do. Let me know what you think, opinion versus fact, personal experience, when to rely on it, when not to rely on it. And all the things that I talked about. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay skeptical. And after next time, well, I said stay skeptical, so I mean, you already know what to do. Gee, it's not that hard.